Right now, under 2 miles of black water in the middle of the Pacific, imagine something the size of a mountain. It is not dead, it is not a fossil, it is sleeping, and it is dreaming. And the moment it opens its eyes, the human race has about 6 hours left. Not 6 hours to win. 6 hours before the world, simply stops existing. I know how that sounds. So let's be clear about what this is. This is not a horror story. This is a thought experiment, run with real physics, real oceans, and real human psychology. We are taking the most famous monster ever imagined, Cthulhu, and asking one honest question. If it were actually real, what would actually happen? Stay with me, because here's the twist most people get wrong. The scariest thing about this creature was never its size. It's that it could end your entire species without ever touching a single one of us. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how. The real horror isn't in the ocean. It's in your head. It starts with the sea. In the original myth, Cthulhu lies trapped in a sunken city called Rilye, somewhere in the South Pacific. So before the creature ever moves, the city has to rise. And a landmass the size of a city breaking the ocean's surface is not a quiet event. It is one of the most violent things physics allows. When the seafloor lifts, it shoves an unimaginable volume of water upward and outward. That's how tsunamis are born. And this would not be a single wave. It would be a wall of water radiating in every direction at the speed of a jet airliner. Coastlines across the entire Pacific Rim, Japan, California, Chile, the Philippines, Australia, would have hours at most before the ocean came inland for miles. Before anyone understood what had surfaced, hundreds of millions of people near the coast would already be in the path of the water, and the creature hasn't even opened its eyes yet. Now let's talk about the thing itself. In the legend, Cthulhu is described as something like a mountain that walks, hundreds of meters tall, maybe more. And here's where real biology says something fascinating. A living creature that size should be impossible. It's called the square cube law. When you scale a body up, its weight grows much faster than the strength of its bones and muscles can support. Blow a human up to the size of a skyscraper, and their own legs would shatter under them the instant they tried to stand. Which tells us something chilling. If Cthulhu can stand, can move, can rise from the sea and not collapse into a pile under its own weight, then it is not made of the same biology we are. It does not obey the rules that bind every living thing on Earth. And that is the first clue that we are not dealing with an animal. We are dealing with something the laws of nature simply do not apply to. You cannot fight a thing like that. But humanity would try. Every military on Earth would converge on it. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Even our ultimate weapons might mean nothing. We've detonated nuclear bombs underwater before. The ocean absorbs and disperses an astonishing amount of force. Against a target the size of a mountain that may not even be made of ordinary matter, our entire arsenal might amount to a flash, a wave, and then it's still there, still moving, still coming. The single most terrifying realization a civilization can have is that its biggest weapon didn't work. But the physical destruction, the waves, the wreckage, that might not even be the worst part, because in the legend, Cthulhu's true weapon isn't its body, it's your mind. The myth says that even while it sleeps, the creature reaches into human dreams, that its mere presence drives people to madness, and strip away the supernatural, and there's something disturbingly plausible underneath. Humans are not built to comprehend things on this scale. Our brains evolved to handle the size of a predator, a storm, a tribe, not an entity that breaks our understanding of what's possible. Confront millions of people at once with undeniable proof that something exists which should not, something vast, ancient, and utterly indifferent to us, and you would have a global psychological event unlike anything in history. Mass panic. The collapse of the belief, buried in all of us, that humans are in control and the world makes sense. Societies don't run on electricity alone. They run on the shared assumption that tomorrow will resemble today. Cthulhu would shatter that assumption for every person alive on the same afternoon. And that points to the real horror, the one Lovecraft was actually writing about underneath the tentacles. It was never really about a monster. It was about scale, the idea that the universe is almost unimaginably old and vast, that it was here long before us and will outlast us by an eternity, and that within it, humanity is not the main character, not the hero, not even noticed. A creature like Cthulhu wouldn't hate us. Hatred would require it to care. It would step over our cities, the way you step over an anthill, not out of cruelty, but because it simply does. Not register that we are there. That's the thought that actually keeps people up at night. Not that something powerful might want to destroy us, but that something could end everything we've ever built without even knowing we existed. So could it really happen? No. Cthulhu is fiction. The deep Pacific holds no sleeping god, but the feeling the story reaches for, that is completely real. We genuinely are a thin layer of life, clinging to a small rock, orbiting an ordinary star, in a universe that is far larger and far stranger than our minds were ever built to hold. Cthulhu is just a face we put on that feeling, so we'd have something to be afraid of. That we could, at least. Imagine. The ocean really is mostly unexplored. We really have mapped more of the surface of Mars than the floor of our own sea. And every so often, our instruments pick up a sound from down there in the dark that we still cannot explain. Probably nothing.